welcome back to Yerushalmi Shekalim. We are holding page 3 halacha base, which is roughly page nun base. Okay, so we're talking about other dinim, about things which have been found and we don't know where they come from. You find money in Yerushalmi, in the market where they sell animals. They're always treated, the animals, as Masechet Sheni, or the money is Masechet Sheni money, because most animals bought in Yerushalmi were bought from Masechet Sheni money. And if it's found by Harav, then it's always chulin. You expect it to be chulin, and you can use it for any purposes. With Yerushalmi, if you find in other markets in Yerushalmi, not in front of the animal merchants, then it depends when you find it. The rest of the year, it's chulin. Use it as you wish. The time of the festival, everything's considered Masechet Sheni, and you have to use the Kedushas Masechet Sheni because at this time there's all the regel in Yerushalmi. The money probably fell from them. Most money is from Masechet Sheni money. Okay. Kabasa shenimsa ba'azara. You find meat in the azara and you don't know which korban it is. If it's cut le'ivorim into various pieces, like an oila is cut before it goes on the mizbeach, then oila, you assume it's oila offering. V'chatichas, if it's cut into smaller pieces, then chatais, it's chatas offering. And if it's found in Yerushalmi, whatever it is, zivchei shlamim. You assume it's shlamim, because most meat eaten in Yerushalmi is shlamim. Zeh, whether it's meat found in the Azara or found in Yerushalmi, you don't put it on the mizbeach if it was an oila, or eaten it if it was a chatas shlamim, because maybe the time's gone by, it's too late. You leave it ad shetuba sorasa. You wait for it to go lose a bit of colour, means you leave it basically a night or two, and then it'll be possible. The yates of the base of Sreifa, and you have to burn it where all the postal kodshim are burnt. Nimsa bigvulin, if it's found outside Yerushalmi, Evarim, if it's cut into pieces, then it's expected to be nevelos, and you can't eat it, because since it's not fitting to eat, that's why it was cut into these big pieces, like for feeding the dogs, or to sell to goyim. V'chatichas mutaris. If, however, it was cut into small pieces, then it is permitted, because it's not the way to start cutting the meat into small pieces unless it's there ready to eat. But Shas Havragel, and the time of the festival, Shabbos Maruba, there's so much meat, Afe Varim Mutaris, then even the bigger pieces, there's so much meat, they don't cut it into small pieces, they cook it limbs and limbs. Okay, now the Gemara asks, on that which we learned in the Mishnah, that the money found in Harav is always chulin. We didn't need to say only that the money that's found by Harav is Kodesh, because you'll find holy money like from Trumas Halishka, surely. So it's really what we should say, that the Harav money, you say it's chulin, it should really be Kodesh. Rabbi Baruch, he says Chazaka she'ena Cohen Moitzi. Now the Cohen, who's the treasurer of Hekdesh, does not spend min Halishka from the Trumas Halishka to let it go, he doesn't take anything from it outside the Azara. Ma is to money to buy an animal. First he will redeem the money onto an animal. So the animal merchants would stand next to the Lishka, they get their money from the Cohen, and that way the Kedusha of the money goes on the animal. And and therefore, even if the money is found in Harav, it's beyond the Lishka, it might have been holy earlier on, but now it's definitely chulin. Basa shenimsa, meat that's found in the Azara, with big pieces is oila and small pieces chatas or Yerushalmi shlamim, and you leave it overnight and then you burn it. If you took your mind away from guarding kodshim from tumah, even though it's hesach hadas does puzzle the meat, you don't burn it straight away. You have to wait. You wait for it to discolor a bit, disfigure a bit, and then you burn it. Our Mishnah says this, but it says you leave it for it to disfigure, and after that, to the base of streifa, and after that, it can be burnt. So you lose meat, and then you find it. You've taken your mind away, and Mishnah says you wait to burn it till it's moisa. So you see, hesach hadas, it's not sort of guf. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to wait to become noisa, whatever it is. Our Rav Yossi says v'yos. Now that's right. Why the meat should go to base of streifa, it's out of doubt. Because if you took your mind away because you're worried of chashash tumah, you wouldn't really have to burn it. The Azara is considered Rishus Rabbim as far as tumah is concerned. You have a rule, Safik tumah and Rishus Rabbim is tar. So the reason why we're burning it is not because of Hesach Hadas, it's because of the following. Because La'achla Einad Yachal, you can't eat it. Shamnis Kalkulus Sarasa, maybe it's already gone one night and it's nicer. And you can't burn it straight away, because there's a chance that you haven't gone through a night. That's why it has to say to Ubat Sarasa, be into the base of Strefa. So you leave it overnight, and therefore you have to wait and then we will burn it. If you find it in the Gvulin, Ivarim and Nevela and Chatichas are permitted. Rav Krispa, B'Shem Rav Yosef Rav Chanina. When the Mishnah says Ivarim Nevelais, now it doesn't mean you can't eat the meat because you're worried maybe it's Nevela. It means you treat it as definite Nevela. So one who eats it, like in Alen Mishun Nevela, he gets lashes because it's Nevela. Masnisa Amra, and one more came. And also we see this, to understand this from the Mishnah itself. The Mishnah says Ivarim Nevela Chaticha Mutaris. So the Mishnah says chatichas are permitted, mutaris. Lai mamash. Surely it means they're absolutely permitted, definitely. Duchbase, so similarly in the same vein, when it says beforehand Ivarim is nevela, it means v'loiken nala, and you get lashes for it. Mishun nevela is definite nevela. Rav Krispa v'Shem Rav Yosef Chanina. Im hayom acharozos. If the limbs, the big limbs, were like found on a chain or a thread, like threaded together, mutaris they are permitted. But it's not usually the way to do that with nevela. So meat which is chained together on a string, you want to keep it, right? You're not going to throw it away. So maybe that may be coming from a kosher animal which has been slaughtered. Okay. Right. Teishach hanuyos, moichos basa nevela. 9 shops are selling non-kosher meat. Va'achas moichos basa shchuta. And one selling kosher meat. So you bought meat from one of the shops. You don't know which one you bought it from. Chayshish. You have to worry. Maybe you bought from the Neveda shops. Right? Not definite. You don't get malchus for eating it. But its meat is a doubt. Something Neveda, you can't eat it. You have to be machmir. But the Lim says, if however a piece of meat that's found in the street and we don't know which shop it came from, we follow the majority of shops that are Neveda, and the meat is considered definite Neveda. The one who eats it gets lashes. Yeah. Okay. Teisha chanuyas machos basar shchuta. 9 shops selling kosher meat. Machos machos basar nevela. One is selling nevela. Now you don't know where you got the meat from. Chayshish, you have to worry. Maybe you bought it from the shop selling nevela meat, and if you can't eat it, I'll doubt. Or the Nim says, however, when it is found in the street and you don't know where it came from, again you follow the majority. Yechon said, if it's found in the hands of a guy, it's like found in the street. You follow the majority of shops. So if most of the shops are Shal Yisrael, then the meat is permitted, even though you actually find it in the hand of a guy. Rabbi Lazar Barabi Chagai have a Mesamech Rabbana. He was supporting Rabbana. Rabbana was leading on him. He saw a guy cutting a piece of meat from his horse and taking it into the street for sale. Rabbi Lazar said, is this what Rabbi Yochanan said? If you find it with the guy's hand, it's like you find it in the street. If we see that he takes Isur from his own to sell it, how can you allow any meat in the hands of a guy, even if most of the shops are Jewish shops? So he answered back, Cain Rabbi Yossi Rebbe said, on the words of Rabbi Yochanan, I said, providing we saw the guy, we saw the guy leave a Jewish shop. Right? The Jewish shops provided the meat in the town, even though the people who sell it in the market might be going. In this situation, Rabbi Yochanan allowed the meat in the hands of a Nachri. But in the case in front of us, then the Nachri, he never left a Jewish shop. A man in Tziporit, he wanted to buy some meat from a butcher. The butcher wouldn't sell it to him because they hated each other. So the person told a guy, you buy the meat for me, but I said, bring me the meat. After that, the man went back to the butcher and said, you thought you wouldn't sell me meat, I got my meat. Didn't I succeed with the guy? I got meat from you. He says, what meat do you think I gave him? I gave him nevela meat. From Yirmi of Shem Chanina, Master Bar story came with Rebbe, he said, like call up your name inside Mekilin Disiporim. We cannot have the power to forbid all the meat in all the butchers of Zippor on that day. Because most butchers are Jewish people, and you can say meat, in the other butchers is kosher. Now the Rav brings a chumrah of Rav Nachas the Taman, he went to Bavel, Chamson Mekinin, he saw people were lenient with meat where it disappeared from the eye, you've lost eyesight on it, and you don't know what it is. And he was strict on them. And this is what he saw. He wanted to wash in the river a piece of meat which he had in his domain. Now he forgot it there, and he fell into the river, and he went away, and after a while, he wanted to take the meat back again. Rav said, you can't do it. Because I say, maybe the river has flooded that piece away, this is an Aveda piece in its place.
Are we choshesh
the Bachaba is definitely choshesh for sure. The Ramah has got some colours if you recognise it. It's like a case of you leave meat in your freezer, cooked meat, without any seals or anything, cooked meat. And then a cleaner maybe is in the house. Do you have to worry the cleaner will change the meat? Right? Is it busting the time? You go out for work and then, there are colours, the Ramah, if you know it, if you recognise it, whatever. According to Shulchan Aruch, it's Masechet Shekalim Daf, possibly. He was going in the market, he was carrying meat. A bird came along, the dire bird, and snatched the meat. And threw it elsewhere. The man wanted to pick up the meat from where it was thrown. Rabbi says, you can't eat the meat. Maybe it was another piece. It was carrying first, and threw it there. And he took in the place the other meat, your meat, and the bird has taken your food, and you've received another one. Ginai shetab zikin, barrels full of wine, and the river had these barrels of wine, and they were found at the edge of the river. Also, the story came to Yitzchok. He says, the people who pour the wine, can they check their barrels, like various knots in the barrels, the ones who fill them up and seal them, like they can check the knots on the seals. And if they recognize them, they're theirs, then the wine is permitted. And if they don't recognize them, you have to worry, maybe there's some others, the others got lost, and these are others. Nuknika ishtakach biknishta de Buli. A jug of wine or a barrel of wine was found in the shul of the town called Buli. Also, the story came from Rabbi Yirmiyah. He said, Yakamun sikiraya avid tahan. The dyers should check their work. So the people who sign off the barrels with their red markers, they should check. And if they recognize it, where it says, then the wine is permitted. Gadid Tzli. Ishtakach be'israta de Gufta. So you found in the street on the town of Gufta, they found a roasted goat. V'hitziru, and they allowed it Mishum Shnei Dvarim because of two reasons. First of all, Mishem Metzia. As far as the monetary aspect, they allowed the person to take the gedi for himself. He doesn't have to return it to the owners. And Mishem Rob Mahachid Rachim. And also, because of Issa V'heta, they allowed it. You don't have to worry it's treifa, because most people going there were Jewish. And the Gemara explains, they allowed him Mishum Metzia, the Tali we've learned, Hamasel Miyad Havri, if you save something from a lion, and Miyad Hagayas, from a raiding party, Mishunas Hayab and Mishunas Hanaha, from the rivers or the sea, Misratia Gedaila, the big street, Miplatia Gedaila, the big square, Hare Elu Shalai, they are yours, and they Shahabalim is Yashim Mahen, the owner's given up hope. And they allow it, Mishem Marov Hom Alchid Rachim. So that's most people passing by, they weren't worried Mishem V'chidus a guy that maybe the guy shafted it, because most people going there were Jewish people. So you see the Gedi was probably slaughtered through a Jew. V'ishtekach min de Beis Rebbe. But the truth is, it turned out that goat was actually from Rebbe's house, and it was right, it was permitted. Igul de Guvna, Ishtekach B'pundika de Levi. A cheesecake, or cheese, round, big cheese, was found in Levi's inn. V'hitziruhu Mishum Shnei Dvarim. Again, two reasons they allowed it. Mishum Mitzia, as the monetary side, but Mishum Rob Mahachid Rachim, and also for the Mahachid Rachim, because most of the people travel walking around. Mishum Mitzia, the Tani Hamazil Miyad Hagais, you say from the army, Miyad Ari, from the line, Mishum Siyam, Shalazam, from the river, this trying to get done, the big square, Hara Shalah is yours, Leisha Balim is Yashim Mehen, the owner's given up hope. Right, so the cheese was found in place of a rabbin, and you don't have to return it to the owner. They weren't worried they weren't worried there was a guy's cheese, because at that inn, the most people who stayed there were Jewish people. And true enough, it turned out, it was Rabbi Yossi's cheese, and it was right that it was permitted. Now we do find Chachamim who do announce things that get lost. The person will give simonim, even things where it's the rabbim. So he answered, out in Haviyasa Mishkach Lenesata. Now, according to you, if you would have found these things, wouldn't you have taken it for yourself? Rav Yonah Avuch Lo Maktein. Yonah, your father never said this. He says, I want to find it. Nishkach min piyusrus al-gab. If I find an Aveda, I'll take it. In other words, I'm not going to start bothering to return it. So he's saying to the guy, your own father would have kept it. There's no chiyuv to be machriz on the Aveda. Some Chachamim were machriz on themselves. Okay, let's see if there's anything here. Okay, let's see here. Alright. It says, Chazam Sofer writes from Shuvas, a heter, if you can recognize your seal with Tvias Ayin, Yerushalmi's mashma is pashat, ibadek about the base. But Tvias Ayin, it helps, even with Yain Nesach, you recognize your seal and so on. Here you're finding in the market where language from Yain Nesach, and you recognize with Tvias Ayin, you recognize the knots. So the question was whether it's tahar as well. Is it tahar, is it wine? I said, if you recognize the knots, it seems okay. Alright. Let's carry on. We are here. Is that right? Even so, you find it once, a Metzia where there were many people, he didn't take it for himself, and he still announced it. Okay. Behema, an animal that's been found and is fitting for a korban, and it's been found in the area from Yerushalmi to Migdal Eder, so between Yerushalmi and Migdal Eder, or that same direction, that same measurement in distance, anywhere from Yerushalmi in any direction. Zecharim, if there are males, and you assume they're Oila offerings. And Kebos, then they are Shekalim Daf. He said, if it's fitting like a sheep or a goat, 1 year old, fitting to Pesach, then you should be used with Psachim. That's if it's found before the festival, Shoshim for 30 days. Very shayna in the beginning, and Mamashkinin as Motza'ah, they would take a pledge from the people who found the animal. Achu Mevi Nisacheha. They would take a pledge until he brought the wine that goes with it. So he found an animal, he has to pay for the wine. Chazruli as Manich, and I said, so people said, forget it, I won't bother finding the animal, I won't bother giving it as a korban. But I don't want to pay for the wine. His skina based in they made a takana that the wine should be bought from public funds. Rav Shimon, Shiva Dvarim Hiskina based in 7 things were takanas and based in with korbanos, that the money comes from public funds. And this is one of them. Now we're going to talk about the other 6. A guy who sends his oila offering from abroad, he sent money for the wine. Then the money we got, we do use his. But if he never sent it, we'll bring the wine from the communal funds. And takana number 3, a guy dies and left animals as korbanos. If he's got the wine that's been separated while he was alive, or he separated money for it, you use his money. And if not, you pay from the community. Number 4, tonight based in Hu, Cohen Gadol Shemay, so the condition is based in Cohen Gadol dies, and we've not yet appointed another one. Shetahim Minchasai, his mincha offering, his minchas chavitin, that's the 10th of an ephah, which is half in the morning and half in the afternoon, Kereva Mishal Tzibur, should be paid for out of the Tzibur until they appoint another Cohen. Rav Yudaim, he says, Mishal Yashin, the mincha is brought from the Yashin, the heirs, not from the Tzibur. And Shlema Haisa Kreva, in this situation you would bring a holy sign. You wouldn't bring half in the morning and half in the afternoon. Ala Melach Balait, in this Takana number 5, things of Hegdash, the salt and the wood, where you use it for salt in the Kabbalas, Shiu HaKainim Ne'aisin Mehen. the Kohenim were allowed to get benefit for the sake of preparing the korbanos which were eaten for the Kohenim, even though me'ikadin is the Issa Me'ila to use it for your own purpose. But para, and on the paraduma, Takana number 6, there's no Me'ila on the ashes. You're not hired to Me'ila on bringing Kom Me'ila for that. And Takana number 7, if birds were brought, then they became pasul. The basic Takana, Shiubayis Mishal Tzibur, the swaps that we have to bring instead should come from the communal funds. But Yossi, he argued, and he said, that the kind of basin was one who sells the birds. Hamasapek Zakini, the one who provides the birds, the base Mikdash, he is the one that's to pay for the replacements. Umasapek Esapasulas, he has to provide the other ones for the sake of swapping for the ones that need to be brought now. There was a problem with the first ones, he has to provide the other ones. Now, at the beginning of the Mishnah we learnt that if you find animals which are Zacharim, Yerushalmi, we say it's an Oila offering. Now, how can you bring an animal as an Oila? It could be it's a Shlamim, which is kosher with a male. I mean, if it is a Shlamim, you can't bring it on the Mizbeach out of doubt. You can't bring on the Mizbeach meat that's meant to be eaten. So how can the Mishnah just say, oh, the animal's an Oila? Rav Hoshen Rabba Amar, he said the animal that's found is definitely not brought on its own, because we don't know if it's an Oila or Shlamim. The Mishnah is talking about a case where the one who finds it is going to pay money to Hekdesh for the animal he found. Yeah? He's happy to, he takes upon himself to obligate himself the money of the animal he found. So if he wants to find a takana, he wants to sort out this animal, he's prepared to take upon himself to bring money from his own to take away the kedushas animal or the kedush of the animal onto his money, and this money he will bring the korban that he's bringing. So out of doubt, he has to set aside money. So basically, he's setting aside money for the animal he's found, and he has to set aside money for an Oila offering and for a Shlomim offering. Okay, so he has to cover all sides. So to be misakin all the various doubts, he puts therefore 2 lots of money for the value of the animal that he found, and he says, look, if the animal's an Oila, then that should go on this money, and this money will be used for an Oila, and the other money will be for Shlamim. If the animal's a Shlamim, it's Mechul on the second money, and the first ones will be used for the money of an Oila. And you bring an Oila with your first money, you bring Shlamim with the second money, and the animal that's found ends up going to Chulin. And that way you can sort out the Kedusha of the korban in the animal which was found, and you can end up, it can be brought. Oh no, we haven't said, are we going to tell someone, go and be over Me'ila, go and sin, to be Mechalel, a korban, a perfect animal, onto money, intentionally? The Torah only allows you to redeem an animal after it's got a blemish, right? Although it helps chilul with an animal, even though it's perfect, but still you shouldn't do that. A perfect animal, there's no reason to put it onto money. How can we give you an answer to do this? Ella, he says, what the Mishnah means is that the Zacharim that are found are brought as Oila because Hilcha Behen Acharov, we follow the majority. In Rov Zacharim Oilas, if most animals of Zacharim we follow are Oilas, we follow the most of Zacharim, which are Oilas. In Rov Nekeva, Zivchei Shlamim, and if the majority are brought as female, then they're usually Shlamim. Most of them are Shlamim. Now, how can we follow the Rov and say most males are Oila? He says, ain't Shlamim, but you can have a Shlamim also coming from these. So, therefore, the Gemara explains Rabbi Yochanan slightly differently. You don't bring the actual animals which you find. No. So, case otherwise, so what do? You wait till it gets a blemish, and then you can redeem it onto other animals. Yeah? And then you can, you bring the 2 animals which are tamim for each animal that you found, and you make a condition. So if the animal that's found is an Oila, then the perfect one will be an Oila, and the second one will be a Shlamim. If the animal is found as a Shlamim, then the Tzmima will be a Shlamim, and the first one will be Oilas Nadava. So based on this, when the Mishnah says the males that are found are Oila, it means that you have to worry also for an Oila offering. Okay. Rav Zahira said, the truth is, the males are found are close to, the males are brought as an Oila themselves. Now, it could be their Shlamim. But he says like this, Well, you find elsewhere, tonight based in Huala Moisaris. We said based in made a condition. Any extra money from a chatas, shikruv oila, he brings oila. Kenaz ama ufhacha. So say we say the same thing here. Tonight based in Huala, an animal that gets lost, then you find it, shikruv oila, so you bring it as an oila, even if it was hooked to Yerushalmi. So even if the animal that was found was really a shlomim, it's the tonight based in that the Hegdash Rishon goes away, the animal becoming fitting to be as an idol offering. He says the truth is, if it is a shlomim, ain't there mazid, you're basically being mechalal b'mazid a shlomim onto a lola. I mean, how can you? It's all very well when you got chatas money that got lost. Maybe tonight based in helps over there. The money is holy kedushas chatos. It's not the animal itself, but here. You're removing Kedusha's animal of this and you're putting onto something else. So how can you do that? He's answered, since it's tonight based in, we can get rid of the first Hekdesh, it's not considered Chilul b'Mezid. So just like tonight based in helps as far as money is concerned, it also helps for the animal itself. Now, we spoke about the din of Minchas Chavitin when the Cohen Gadol dies. Rav Yasa. When I was in Babel, before I went out to Eretz Yisrael, I heard the voice of Yehuda Sha'al of Shmuel. He asked him, someone separates his shekel and he dies. What happens to the shekel? He says, Yiplu Nidava. It should go to Nidava. What about his leftover money for Asir Sa'efa? The Kohen Gadol separated money for the Efa offering. And after he bought it, there's money left over. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Yechem Liyama Balach. Just take it, throw it in the sea. And Rabbi Lazar, you put on a dava, you have to use it for a dava. Now, we bring an argument about the chavitin, which is the din of the mincha when the Kohen Gadol dies. Asir Sa'eva Shal Kohen Gadol, which we said, the chavitin of the Kohen Gadol wouldn't come in halves. You bring a saron and then you cut it in half in the morning and half in the afternoon. So, Rabbi Yochanan, he says, if you want, so you can divide the saron to two halves in two separate kelim or a non-holy vessel. And then you can make it holy in a kli sharis. He says mekadsha. First you put it in a kli sharis, and after that you divide it. The Mishnah Malachas seems to argue on Rabbi Yochanan, on the view of Rabbi Yochanan. It says a Kohen Gadol who brings a half in the shachris and he dies. We appoint another Kohen Gadol. The second one doesn't bring just a half for the afternoon, right? No, he doesn't bring the second half of the first guy. He has to bring a whole Isaron and divide it. But Makrid Machsa, and you use this half in the afternoon, and half of it will get lost. So Machsa Avad. Now, according to Rabbi Yochanan, just half Isaron is a holy and a Kli Sharis each time. When the Kohen Gadol divides up the second one, I mean, he's not yet holy in a Keli, and once you divide it, the Keli will only make holy that which is fitting to be offered up. So why does the second one have to go and get lost? You surely can redeem it. There's only got Kedushas Damim. What do you see from the Mishnah? That you have to be Mekadesh, the whole Isaron together, and afterwards you divide it into two halves. Okay? Pasala, Rabbi Yochanan answered, the fact that the second half has to get lost, even though it's not been in a Kli Sharis, Shekena Filu Ma, it's even money left over from Chavitin Yechliam Melech to be thrown in the sea. Right? And even though there's only Kedushas Damim, so definitely the leftover flour has to get lost, even though it's not got any Kedushas Aguf. Okay, now we're going to ask him Rish Lakish from the second part of the Mishnah. Because the Mishnah says, now basically when the first half of the Kohen Gadol's Mincha is brought in the morning, and the first half of the Kohen Gadol in the afternoon is brought in the afternoon, and you end up two halves getting lost. The second half of the first one, and the second one of the second one. So two halves, whichever it is. So the two halves end up getting lost. But Talia, we've learned Mechsa, half is left from the Kohen Gadol Rishon, or Mechsa and half is left from the Kohen Gadol Sheni, to always Ras and you lead them overnight, he ends to the base of Shrefa, and then they are burnt. Now, if they have Kedushas Haguf, if these do have Kedushas Haguf, according to Rish Lakish, why do you have to wait a night before you burn it? Why can't you burn it straight away? Pasala, so Rish Lakish explained to Vishwa. The Vishwa Lama, Isaron Mekadesh, a keli of Isaron which is used for measuring the solas, it was a Kli Sharis of a holy vessel, which made all the flour holy, whatever was put inside it. And therefore the part that's not being offered up gets burned straight away. You don't need to leave it all night. But the Brisa holds like Rabbi Kiva, who holds the clear sign it wasn't a holy vessel, and the flour that's put inside does not get Kedushas Aguf. And that's why the part which is not fitting to be offered up doesn't get burnt until tomorrow. You have to wait tomorrow. Now, when a Cohen comes the first time to do work in the Beis Mikdash, maybe Asir Seifa, he brings his Asir Seifa, he brings it himself. Whatever Cohen, who did work on their day of dedication, even though they've not yet brought their Asir Seifa, he wanted to say, on the same day that he's doing the work for the first time, and he was Kohen Gadol on the same day, maybe Shtayim, he brings 2 minutes chabitin, one for his new dedication, and one for the mincha that Kohen Gadol has to bring every day. Now, it also says for minchas chabitin, it says, Hamachavas b'Hashem en te'aseh, mubeches to Vienna tufine minchas pitin. To Vienna is next to the word tufine. So we learned b'shas haba, when you are bringing it, it should be tufine. It needs to be baked at a time fitting for offering. But don't bake it at night before dawn. That you shouldn't do. But we learned that before dawn, they start preparing the chavitin already. So it was baked well before dawn. This doesn't mean they baked it at that time. They put the people in charge to start getting ready. To make the hot water to start kneading the flour. But the actual chavitin itself was done later on. Now the pasuk says the chavitin is done in 3 stages. It says amachavas b'shemen, when it's fried, murbeches, which is scalded in hot water, and tufine is baked. So what is the order? Tufine, when is the baking done? Rabbi Yasam Shem Rav Chanina, metagana, first you fry it, and then you bake it. Rabbi Achav Shem Rav Chanina, he says, you bake it, and then you fry it. Now, this argument is similar to another argument in a brisa we're going to see now. Tufine, which said with chavitin, is you open it up, you get te'afen or no. At the time of the baking, it should be cooked a bit. So it's been fried a bit in a pan. Rebbe argues, he says tufine is tufen or no. At the time of baking, it should be beautiful. And if it's fried first, then it's black from the oil. Rabbi Doisa, he says tufine riba. It should be baked many times. These arguments which were quoted here, Rav Achon, Rav Yasa, fits in with the Machlokes Tanakama and Rebbe. Mandama tufine na'a, which is Rebbe holds command like the one who says ofer, you bake it and then you fry it. So that's Rav Achon. And Mandama tufine na'a, that's the Tanakama, he holds command like the one who says metagna, you fry it, and then you bake it. And that's Rav Yasa, the name of Rav Chanina. Now, if the Kohen Gadol dies before he brought his chavitin of the afternoon, and another Kohen Gadol is appointed, the second Kohen has to bring a whole Isaron, and half of it gets wasted. This is only with Shemais, only with the Kohen Gadol died, but also if he became possible from his Kohen. Now, the question is, not only he died in Afilu Mitzvah, what happens if the Kohen Gadol is Tameh and another Kohen Gadol is appointed? Even though it's not a fixed Tumah, it's not going to last. The first Kohen will come back to his job. Nevertheless, the second Kohen Gadol doesn't bring the second half of his Isaron. He brings a whole Isaron, and definitely he says if the Kohen Gadol was possible because of a mum or something, which is fixed blemish, he's never going to go back to his work, that he doesn't bring the second half of the first Isaron. Now, maybe it could be, not only if he dies, afilu nidcha, maybe even if nidcha is pushed away from being a kohen because of a blemish, a fixed blemish, maybe the second kohen doesn't bring the second half of the asaron, but maybe if he's tameh, well, that's not a proper pushing away if he's tameh. It'll be fit later on. Maybe the kohen gadol should bring the second half of the first isaron. Maybe he doesn't have to make a whole isaron brand new. He can rely on the isaron of the first kohen. From the place of Bazilaya, even if the first Kohen was pushed away because of a blemish, it doesn't mention more chidushim, it's pushed away by a blemish, then even in this case, Yeah, okay, so even in this din will be the same. So it's a case of a blemish. So if there's Tumah, the Kohen Gadol can bring maybe the second half of the first Isarim. Maybe if the Kohen's Tomei, maybe it's only if it's a blemish. Okay. How are we doing? You alright, Rabbi Isai? Yeah. Mm. Now, back to what he said in the Mishnah, when the Kohen Gadol dies, and there's no other Kohen appointed, if the Chavitin comes from the Kohen Gadol's estate, the heirs and so on, or from the community. Now, we're going to bring a price. They didn't appoint another Kohen. Let the heirs pay for it. That's why it says, the Kohen Mashiach Tachtami Banav Yasa. So some of the Yashim should bring it before another Kohen Gadol is brought. Maybe they should bring it like the way his father brought it in his life. Like one Amati, to bring the whole thing, not in the house. Dear Rabbi Yehuda. Shimon argues, right, Shimon says, no, the Chavitin has to come from the community. Shenema, as it says, Chok Olam, right? The carbon is Mimisha Brias Shalai. The carbon comes from, it was Hugdash from someone where the whole world, everything is his. This is Trumas Alishka, which was Hugdash to the Gavaya. And it says, Kali El Takta, it's going to be Kali El Takta completely burned off of that. And it's a Tanai based in, Al Kohen Gadol Shemeis, that his mincha is brought from the tzibur. Rabbi Yehuda said from the Yoshin. We have a contradiction of Shimon. Taman in Shekalim Amish, who Amar, he says that Kohen Gadol dies, but Mishal Yoshin, that the Yoshin are the ones who pay up. Right? The Tanai based in, the mincha comes now in Amish. It says he comes from the tzibur. Whereas his mashma before the takana based in, it would come from the Yoshin. But here in the Brisa, who Amar, he says Minat Torah comes from Shel Tzibur. Here he's saying it's not takana, it's a Torah din. It's the Brisa Chok Olam. Right? It's a Torah din. It's not Tanai based in. Now, isn't that a good question? So Asa Rabbi Akabaracha, Rabbi Bobish, and Rabbi Yochanan. He said when he said Tanai based in that the mincha comes from the Tzibur, it doesn't mean that without that Tanai, it would come from the Yoshin. No. Torah is a Torah din should take Bab and Tzibur. Should really come from the Tzibur. Right? Chagola. So maybe it's right. You shouldn't take money from the Trumas Alishka. Maybe claim for it. Go and collect for it from every individual. But his skinu that made it a kaddish and hebam and Trumas Alishka. Basically, we're not going to make another collection from every individual for it. Okay. All right. Do you want to stop? No. Okay. Let's just see what we've got here. Okay. Just in here, 1 minute. Now, Asameach has a question. A Kohen Gadol, is he a Kohen Hedyot with another Mila of Kohen Gadol? Or is he separate, completely different Kedusha from an ordinary Kohen? Is he like a unique species, or is he Kohen Hedyot with a bit more? It depends on Machlokes Baba Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi says a Kohen Gadol who becomes appointed, the first time he does the Avodah, he brings 2 menachas. Right? One brings Kohen Gadol, brings Chavitin. And one for Minchas Chinuch, his Minchas Chinuch. The Bavli says he brings 3. One for Minchas Chavitin, one Minchas Chinuch of a Kohen Gadol, and also one for Minchas Chavitin of a Kohen Hedyot. So Yerushalmi holds that Kohen Gadol is not the same as Kohen Hedyot. He's a completely separate entity. Whereas the Bavli holds that he's a mixture of Kohen Hedyot and Kohen Gadol together. And therefore he has to bring, in addition, according to the Bavli, he has to bring additional Chavitin, one Chinuch for Chinuch of being Kohen Hedyot and one for being a Kohen Gadol. There's also an argument in Yuma if the belt of a Kohen Gadol was the same as the belt of a normal Kohen. Or maybe the Kohen Gadol's one had kilayim, but the belt of a Kohen Hedyot didn't have kilayim. If you say the belt of a Kohen Gadol was the same belt, then the Kedusha of the Kohen Gadol includes a bit of Kedusha's Kohen as well. But according to the one who says the belt of the Kohen Gadol is not the same belt of the Kohen Hedyot, then you have to say they're 2 Kedushas. Okay? Right. I think we can carry on.
Yep.
So 1 second. Okay. Where are we? We are Rabbi Yossi Amar. Yeah. Rabbi Yossi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Yeah. Okay. Now we've learned Minchas Chavitin that's brought after Kohen Gadol dies, before the other Kohen Gadol is appointed, and it was brought whole. Rabbi Yossi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Ma, what do you mean here? Does it mean they bring the Minchas Shalema, the whole Asir Seifa b'Shachris, as Shlema, another whole one, Ben Arbaim, in the afternoon? Or maybe it means they bring it Shlema Shachris, the whole one in the morning, and they don't bother bringing it in the afternoon. Do we continue to make it twice a day? Even though in this case you're going to bring it as a holy sorrow both times? Or maybe you guard the shiur, it's got to be the same amount, so we're not going to bother bringing anything in the afternoon. Kad tehei pshitale, but Yochanan continued. If anyone's going to come and work out the answer and say, look, it has to be a hole in the morning and a hole in the afternoon, because the pasuk says mincha tamid, the chavitin is always like the korban tamid, you never miss it out, not in the morning, not in the afternoon. Then what about shloshes lugin? 3 lug of oil coming with the soren of silas of chavitin every day. Mahain, right, the 3 lug of oil which comes with the silas of the chavitin. Mahain, what's their din? Shloshes lugin, 3 lug with the mincha in the shachris, and shloshes lug, another 3 lug ben habayim. I lug a mersa b'shachris, 1.5 lug in the morning, or lug mersa ben habayim, 1.5 in the afternoon. Right? Do we say, look, since it's doubled as far as the silas, we should double the amount of oil? Or do we say, no, only the silas is doubled? Because before we learn that's what happens, but maybe the oil is not. Even the following question, I have a question. Shnei kamotzim, the 2 fistfuls of levina that come with the chavitin every day. Mahin, what's their din? Do bring shnei kamotzim, the shachas, 2 fistfuls in the morning, shnei kamotzim ben habayim, 2 fistfuls in the afternoon, because the amount of flour is doubled. Or kovetzacha v'shachris, kovetzacha ben habayim, 1 fistful in the morning, 1 fistful in the afternoon. Rabbi Yosef Klum lam to look kovetz. Where do we learn the shiur of kovetz from elsewhere? Where do we learn it from? We learned it from the fistful of the minchas chayte, from the sinner's mincha. Mala lan shnei kamotzim. Now just like there, any mincha where it's doubled, you need to double the levina, 2 fistfuls. Afkan. So also here as well, when the mincha is doubled, you need a double measure of levina, which is shnei kamotzim. You need 2 fistfuls. But it's not so straightforward. Do you bring double flour? Do you automatically bring double levina? Who knows? We have a suffix there, minchas chavitin, afachas richalei. He also has a suffix, in the amount of silas, the old flour and so on. The reason why he's not sure about minchas chavitin, because he's not sure also about a double mincha, so he doesn't know. So the question remains. Rav Chizkiah comes along with Chizkiah and he pushes away Rabbi Yosef's raya. Rav Chizkiah, klum lam to look, the whole din of chavitin that he needs shleisha lugin. Where did we learn it from? Right, we learnt it from the Talmud of the afternoon. Right? Have we not learnt it from the Talmud of the afternoon? And then you want to say, learn out the suffix about how much levina when the Kohen Gadol dies, bring a holy soren, from that which we learned the shiur with the sinner's mincha. So, we can also work out how much oil to bring. If you're learning from the minchas Talmud, you're learning from the Talmud, we should say like this. Ma'ala lan shloshes lugin. Just like you can't have less than 3 lug of oil for the silas, whether the tamid in the morning, tamid in the afternoon, afkan shlosh lugin. So with chavitin as well, when it's brought whole, you mustn't have less than 3 lug of oil for a soren, or the holy soren of silas. You mustn't have less than 3 lug, whether it's brought in the morning, whether it's brought in the afternoon. Now Rabbi Yochanan had a question: how much oil do I have to bring? He didn't work it out. He could have worked it out. He didn't work it out. It must be there's a reason to be differentiating between the 2. It could be the amount of flour is doubled, because the Torah tells you have to double the flour. But maybe the amount of oil, the Torah doesn't tell you. Maybe it's not doubled. You hear that? Just because we double the flour doesn't mean we have to double the oil. Therefore, you know something about the levina as well? The question is also there. You can't start learning out, we learned the shiur from Minchas Chayte. There's still a question here. It could be the amount of flour was doubled, because the Torah told you so. But the amount of levina, the Torah doesn't discuss. Maybe it's not doubled. So the question remains. Okay. Takana number 6. But there's no me'ilah with the ashes of the paraduma. Shmuel bar Nachman Hashem Rav Yonasan, Kedin Haya Shimon Aman. Really, there should be Me'ilah, really. The Hain goes with Shleim on above. The base in decreed no Me'ilah. But Hartani, we've learned in a brisa with the paraduma, Chatas, Melamed Shemalit Bar. There is Me'ilah like every Chatas. But the word who is coming to exclude. Bar Ma'alin. Yeah. In it there's Me'ilah, Ve'ein Ma'alin Be'efra. But you see, in the Torah there's no Me'ilah with the ashes. So actually it's not, we're asking, it's not a takana. It's the Torah telling you there's no Me'ilah here. So what do you mean it's a takana? The Torah says there's no Me'ilah with the ashes. Oh, Ravo says the truth is, you're right. The Torah said so. But it's shown in the beginning, I'm embarrassed to say this. The Kohen were being lenient with it. We'll say it quietly. The Kohen being lenient with it. But they would use it for their heals, for their wounds. The Gazra, the Chacham put Gezerah, Sheyimaluba, Me'ilah, rabbinical Me'ilah will apply. Not to start reducing the ashes and so on, which is expensive, and we don't want to use it for other reasons. We don't start using it for their wounds. Now the Kohen lifted themselves up a bit, raised their standards. Then the din went back to where it always was. But there would be no din me'ilah anymore, like the main din of the Torah. So when the Mishnah says it's a takana basin, there should be no me'ilah with the ephah, with the ashes. If it's the second takana of the basin, they brought the din back to what it was all along. And for the birds which are parcel coming from the community, Rabbi Yosef said no, the bird providers had to provide it. Now it brings the question we asked. It says money found in the shofar of Kinin, and it's next to the shofar of the people the Oila birds, we put it into the shofar of the Oila birds, and we brought there. So if the money was from shofar of Kinin, it was put there, let's say a woman who's Yeledes, she needs to bring 2 birds for his kapara. One is Chatas, one is Oila. If we put the money down to an Oila, how is she going to get her Chatas forgiveness? Yitzchok tonight based in who's the condition of the based in Masechet Shekalim, the one who provides the birds, who Masapik, he also has to provide additional birds to swap over the psulos versus the ones that get lost, the ones which become puzzle. Perek Shmini, Halacha Aleph. You ready to move on? Yeah. Okay. Kol Haraikin Hanimsain Yerushalmi. Now, we've spoken about money found in Yerushalmi. We've spoken about animals found in the various areas. So now there's Tumah on saliva found in the markets, Mishnah Taharas, because we're worried maybe it's saliva of a Zav or Zava or other people are Tameh. Now, what about saliva that's found in Yerushalmi? So Kol Haraikin inside Yerushalmi, Tahirin. There's Tahir. We're not guys there that maybe it's a Zava or Zava. Chus Mishal Shuka Elian, except a certain market in Yerushalmi, where there you would find the Tameim people whose saliva is Tameh, and therefore the saliva found there was Tameh. Divra Meir. Rabbi Yosef says no. If it's Yerushalayim v'Shakoli B'Sushana, not time of festivals, Shabbat if it's the middle of the street, it's Tameh. Shabbat Stadion on the sides, that is Tahirim. Because the rest of the year, you always find Tameh people in the streets, it's all Tameh. Whereas the Tahir people keep to the sides. The Shas Regel, in the time of the festival, the majority of people are Tahir, they all go in the middle of the street. So Shabbat Tahir, in the middle of the street is Tahir, Shabbat Stadion is Tameh, on the sides is Tameh. The nation wanted because the Tameh people were the minority, this Dalkim is starting to go to the sides. Now the Chachamim will go to Tumah on Stam Kalim found in the markets, wherever, they might be Tameh. And also this Gezerah, not on Kalim found in Yerushalayim, as we'll see. Kala Kalim inside Yerushalayim, Kalim found in Yerushalayim, Derech you read on the base of Tefillah, on the way down into the Tova, the Kali Tefillah place, they would go down steps and come up again. So on the way down, if you find anything there, right, then Derech you read on the base of Tefillah, right, if they're found on the way down to Tameh, they're considered to be Tameh. They must have fallen from someone who's bringing it there. Derech Aliyah, if they're found on the way up, so here and there Tahar. Shaloi b'kridasan aliyasan. The way of going down wasn't the same way as going up. There are 2 ways. Rabbi Yossi, he says, Kula Tahirin. No, even the Kalim found going down are Tahar. Chuz min asal ma'magreif of amrisim yuchal l'kor, various Kalim which are used for burials, and therefore they're used for gathering bones and burials, they definitely are Tameh. Sakin, Shanin says Baba Asa, you find a Shechita knife on the 14th of Nisan, time of slaughtering the Korban Pesach, you don't know, is it Tahar, is it Tameh? Sheicha b'miyad, you now can check your Korban Pesach, you're allowed to do it. You don't have to tovel it out of doubt. Even if it's tameh, the owners would have toveled it on the 13th of Nisan, so it shouldn't have Shemesh after. So it needs to have Shemesh after Tefillah. And it'll be Torah on the 14th for Shechting the Pesach. If, however, it's found B'Shloisha Asa, if it's found on the 13th of Nisan, even though it's a suffix, maybe it's been toveled already, nevertheless, wherever you find it, Shoynei Matzvah, you should go and tovel it again. Out of doubt, maybe it wasn't toveled yet, because there would have been time still to do it till the end of the day. But if you find a kupitz, a type of knife, which is a big knife, and most of these knives are made for cutting meat and breaking bones, and not for shchita, you find that sort of knife, then, bezeh or bezeh, whether you find it 14th or 13th, Shoynei Matzvah, you should tovel it again, because come Pesach, it's also to break any bones. So you're not going to start needing this sort of knife on the 14th, and it could be they didn't tovel it for the next day, right? Because you're not going to break any bones anyway. And there would have been time on the 14th to tovel it on the next day. If, however, Chalav Ba'asa b'this b'Shabbos, if the 14th is on Shabbos, Shechet ba miyad. You got it, yeah? You shech straight away. You can use it on that Shabbos. They must have toveled it before Shabbos. Now, even though I don't need to break any bones until the 15th, but Shabbos and Yom Tov, you can't tovel kelim, Tomei Kelim, it's Tikkun Keli, right? You can't do it on that day. It must be done before. The Chamisha Asa. Now, what about the Sakin Kupitz that you find is tire? You find on the 15th on Yom Tov itself. Shechem B'miyad, you can shech. They must have toveled it. They need it for breaking bones on the Chagiga on the 15th. In Nim says it was found Kashur LeSakin, tied. The Kupitz was tied to a knife. Harezu Kasakin. It's got the din of the knife. So even if it's found on the 14th on the weekday, it's tahar. They must have toveled it with a knife on the 13th. All the saliva that's found in Yerushalmi is tahar, apart from the upper market. From Oven Shem Levi, Kashan Shogai Mayasham. In the upper market, there was a place there for washing clothes. There was goyish and launderers there, and the Chaim were guys on the goyim there, Matama like a Zav. Amrav Chanina, Aroidais, Hayu Noicharin. The goyim were killing wild donkeys there, Yerushalayim, to give them to the king's lions. Hayu Oile Regalim, and the Oile Regalim came to Yerushalayim, Mishtakin Badam. They're going through this blood of the mules, until their heels, until their knees. But they come to ask, are they tameh or not? They didn't say they're tameh, even though they touched dam nevela, because they thought dam nevela was tahar, but it's not considered like flesh. Rav Shimon Barabba, Rav Shimon Hanina, Kasran Shogai Ma'isham. Where was this? Launderers in the upper market of Yerushalayim. The guy in there, they would kill the donkeys there. The Gemara continues about dam nevela. Is it tahar? What is the din of dam nevela? What is the din of it? We're going to have a discussion on this now. We're going to bring Rav Shimon Levi about it. Rav Simon, b'shem Rav Shimon Levi, Maaseh b'pirta, Nishal beis Rabbi Shemesa. So a mule of Rabbi's house died, but tiru esimeha. They said, right, the blood is tahar. It's not godly like flesh. They said, it's not tameh mishum nevela. They said, no, it's not like meat and nevela, it's blood and it's tahar. Rabbi Lezer shayla Rav Simon, he said, Kama, I mean, how far do you want to go? What shear? How much blood was it? Is it always tahar? Yeah, or maybe they only said it like until a kazayis, but maybe more than that is tameh. But Rav Simon didn't answer him. Shal again, he asked Rav Shimon Levi, what's the din? Rav Shimon Levi says, Ad Revius, Tiru Revius is tahar. But more than that is tameh. Yes, we kind of tameh. But Bash Rabbi Lazar. Now, Rabbi Lazar was a bit upset. So Rav Simon Shwazeh. Rabbi Lazar was upset. Rav Simon never answered his question. Didn't tell him this halacha that Revius is tameh. Rav Simon never answered his question. Rav Bibi, Rabbi Yosef Masnei Adei Nuvda. Rav Bibi was sitting, he learned the story about the mule of Rebbe that was died and they were tired of blood. Amr Revius said to Rav Bibi, Ad Revius, is it until Revius is okay, it's tahar, and more than that is tameh, yes we can't tameh. Or Ba'ad Bey, Rav Bibi, he pushed him, he didn't want to answer him, he didn't treat him with respect. Amalei Rav Zrika said to Rav Bibi, begin to sha'ala hadba, he asks you a question, and you push him away, why don't you answer him? Amalei says, begin to lie, habazidasibi, so I didn't really have a clear head. To Amar Rav Chanin said, it says in the Klolos of Tisisa, Rahayu, Chayecha, Teluim, Lecha, Mineged. The pasuk says, your life is like hanging in the balance, as it were. This is someone, he's got no land. He buys wheat for the year. He's got wheat for a whole year. But he's still worrying, he doesn't know, will he have money for next year? You're worried day and night. He's got money, a small bit of money. He buys from the warehouse sellers. He's worried maybe he won't have money to buy more, or the grain will go up in price. But one who buys from the baker, he's got no money, just he buys every day, his fresh loaf every day. He doesn't know if he'll have money for bread for tomorrow. This is Ira Bibi, I rely on the baker every day. I'm on the third type, and therefore, because of my worries for my livelihood, I didn't have a clear head to give an answer. I think when it comes back to the suffix of Revius or Abisna, if the blood of Nevela is Tahar, even a Revius, or the question is my Kedum, so what now then? What is the Maskana Halacha about this? He gave evidence, Adam Nevela Shu Tahar. It sounds like it's completely Tahar, even more than a Revius. Mao Tahar. Now what does it mean Tahar though? It could be, it doesn't mean it's completely Tahar. Maybe, what does it mean Tahar? What, is kosher? What does that mean? The Tahar and the Hashir, it doesn't make food susceptible to receive tumah. It's not considered a liquid. They only said machshir, dam shchuta is machshir, maybe not dam nevela. Halatama is matame. But as far as defiling things, yes, maybe it is matame. You can't tell me it's tar completely. Maybe it's not machshir of food to make it susceptible to receive tumah. Maybe that's all. Tamantanina. The one comes back and asks on this. Tamantanina, in machshirin we learned, Dam sheretz, the blood of a sheretz is like its flesh, kivsara, which is metame. It's metame. Ve'ena machshir, and it doesn't make food susceptible to receive tumah. If it fell on it, it doesn't make food susceptible. And it says like this: Ve'en lanu kiyoseboy. There is no other liquid which is metame and not machshir. We don't find this only dam sheretz, which implies that dam nevela. You're saying it's time with a hachshir. It sounds like it's not matame, because it's not like sheretz. There's nothing like sheretz. So the implication is, it's tired, it doesn't make things mursha, and it's not matame either, even a revius. But then the Gemara pushes that way. When we said there's nothing like it, it's not what you said. It means we don't have anything like it, shir tumasai, about the share of the tumah. Dama sheretz is matame, it's a share of a dasha, right? It's a share of a lentil. We don't have any other blood that's got a din like flesh like that. It's matame is such a small amount. And even dam nevela is not matame with that shear, it's matame is flesh, which is a kazayis, only a revius. But as far as the etzem din of tumah, avadame matame kivsari, his blood is matame like his flesh. Rabbi Yosef said, Machlokes two Amoraim argue. One of them says dam nevela is tame with a revius, and one of them said dam nevela is always tahar. Mandaba tame, the one who says it's tame is holds like Yehuda. That's Mishnah Idios. Who says Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argue, and according to Beis Hillel, dam nevela is matame, so it's tame. Mandaba tar, one who says tar, he holds the halachas like Yeshua ben Beseira. In the Mishnah we quoted above, he gave evidence. Dam nevela is tar. According to him, it means it's completely tar, right? Even more than a vis, it's not matame. He said he was one of those who came down from Rais Yisrael to Babel. He said to Rabbi Yossi, but Yos, you are right. That the one who says it's Tameh is like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Moraina din Shayahava. He was a teacher in the Nasi's house. And we've learned that the mule of Beis Rebbe, who was the Nasi, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was the one who died, the mule died, and they would tie the blood because of the Nevela until a Revius. Right? And this was the same Rabbi Yehuda who passed in this din. So according to him, Dam Nevela, Revius is Matame. They would say it's tar only till the Revius. So more than that is Matame. Okay. You ready to carry on, Rabbi Yisai? Now, according to Rebbeah, all the saliva in Yerushalmi, right, is tar apart from the upper markets. Now, like in Rabbi Babel, didn't Rabbi say Shem Rez B'Chanin, like Gazru, ala Rokim Shu Yerushalmi? There's no Gzera on the saliva in Yerushalmi. Like, so why is the Rokim in the upper markets Tameh? It was said on that. Again, as we said, they were going there, they were treated as Zavim, their saliva was Tameh. Now it also says, Rabbi Yossi says the rest of the year, the middle of the road is Tameh. The size is Tahar. And the Regel, the middle is Tahar, and the size is Tameh. Now, B'Shayim Shana, the rest of the year had Tameh Mahachim Shabbayis. The Tameh ones go in the middle of the road. But Taharid Mahachim and Atzam. The Tahar ones go on the side. The tummy ones walk normally, they're not careful. The Torah ones say to them, Perusha, keep away, please keep away. B'shas regel, remember the festival, the Torah ones go in the middle. The tummy ones from the side. The Torah ones go in the middle. They don't have to ask permission for anyone. The tummy and they say, keep away, Perusha. All the vessels in Yerushalmi as they go down are tummy. Like in Harav Shem Yechon, then he said like Gazra like Kelim Yerushalmi. There's no tumah on Kelim, no Gzera on Kelim Yerushalmi. So why is that? Why are the ones Kelim if they go down? So the Gemara answers, Kelim in Yerushalmi. You're right, there's no Gzera, but here, the Kimin Shanim Sudach. So look, they're found on the way to the mikveh. That is the problem. If they're found on the way to the mikveh, there must be a reason why they're found there. Yeah, that proves to you there must have been a problem with them. Now, Rabbi Yossi said that all tahor, apart from the ones which are used in burials, to bring a price, you would call it tziporin, not maritza, but tziporin. Ma'adam, the one who said tziporin, because Shudoma is the keli was like a nail in a person's finger, but one end was sharp. Ma'adam, maritza, the one who calls it maritza, she maritza, it takes the stone, it hurries the stone as a basic kvaros. You use it to push, to move the stone and put it on top of the grave, or to take a stone from the ground when they're digging a grave. Okay. Tani, we said, if you find a kupitz tied to a knife, the din is like the knife. Even if you find it on the 14th on a weekday, you don't have to tie it. We bring a brisa that argues, Tani hasakin kishuralai. We've learnt in a brisa, hasakin, the knife, which is tied to it, to the kupitz, harezu kumaisa, just like the kupitz is tameh, we say the knife is also tameh. So this brisa holds the opposite. Not that the kupitz follows the knife, but the knife follows the kupitz. Halacha base. Ready? Yep. Paroiches shenim tveis ba'avlad hatuma. So it touched liquids which are tamei, level rishon the tuma. Now they're not matame keli really only with Rabbanan really, but ma'bedin oisa b'fnim. We do put it in the mikveh in the azara. You don't have to take it outside the azara like keli which are tamei, which you have to take outside the azara. It's only rabbinical tuma. Machnis oisa miyad, and then we bring it in straight away, right? Straight after you tovel it. You don't have to wait for nightfall or anything. However, Shanito is ba'avatum, if it touched a sheretz, a dead sheretz on a vela, Tamin Torah, but it's been nice because we put it in the mikveh outside, but Shokhan we hang it up for drying bachel in the chel, which is an area in Harav, which is not Kodesh. Although it's been in the mikveh, you can't take it inside, you have to wait for nightfall. In Mahayza Chadasha, if the tummy one was new, Shokhan we allow it to dry, Al-Gaga is on a sort of platform in the Harav, which is a high area, and the Parechas is seen there from afar. People should see its work, but it's beautiful. The Parechas of your tefach, the thickness of a tefach, it was made with 72 of the on the threading machine. Yeah, had 72 holes for the strings to go across. Yeah, no, I guess it was woven. And on every thread, each near of the holes where the threads went through, Esrim Abachut in 24 threads. Each of those was made up of 24 threads. The length was 40 amma, Rachva Esrim, and the width was 20 ammas. And 800,000. 20,800 gold pieces hosenasis. Yeah, it was made with that. That was the amount of money that they used. They made 2 a year. 300 kainim were putting in the mikveh, and that was so big and so heavy they needed 300 kainim to put in the mikveh. Now they always say, because it was 40 by 20, so 40 by 20, 40 ammas is, if you work out the measurements, you'll get each kain using one hand, 300 kainim go around a 40 by 20 by 40 by 20. That is 120 ammas. If you follow an amma of 5 tvachim, that's basically room for the 300 kainim. Ilu amma. Now, if the Torah had said, the pasuk had said with the parachas chut, I might have thought echad, 1 thread. And if he said kofel, I might think shnaim is going double into 2. Shazor, I might think it means 3 threads. Shlosha. But here it says moshzar. So therefore it means the shisha for 6 threads, But there were 4 types of types. There were 4 in the Parochas, Tcheles, Hagavot, Yerushalmi, and Sheish, and Linen. So therefore, it's 6 threads of each species. Mikan, but that makes 24 threads. Tani, we've learned, Shloishim Ushnayim, there were 32 threads. Because we can learn the pasuk like this. Ilo Machot, you'd say Achad is 1. Kaful, you'll think Shnayim is 2. Shazor is maybe Abba is 4. Marzah, we'll double it, we'll make it Shmona, 8. Abba, 4 times 8. We can't learn in the tray, it's 32. Tani, we learn, Abba Mishmona, 48. Another opinion says there were 48. Ilo Machot, Chot is Achad is 1. Kaful, Shnayim is 2. Clear, I might have thought that means Shlosh is 3. Shazor, I might think Shisha therefore is 6. Because it's double from clear. And now it says Majzah, so it means Shnei so 12. Abba 4 types. Yekana Abba 20 is 48. Kasav Echolema, one pasuk says with the Pesach HaMishkan, and it says there Masechet Shekalim, and the embroidery. Because Echolema, one says in the Parochas, which was in the Mishkan between Kodesh and Shaloshim, Masechet Choshev. So what's it? It was Masechet Shekalim. That was one of the entrance of the Mishkan, right? So that was Pasuk Echad, an image on one side. Masechet Choshev, it's Shnei Pasuk, like 2 images on 2 sides. Rabbi Yehuda of Nehemiah, Chad number 1 said Masechet Shekalim is Ari Mikan, like a lion on one side, Rachala Mikan, an empty on the other. On one hand it was a lion, and the other side it was nothing. Masechet Choshev, Ari Mikan, a lion on each side. The other one said Masechet Shekalim is Ari Mikan, a lion on both sides, and Masechet Choshev is Ari Mikan, Nesher Mikan, a lion on one side and an eagle on the other. Mishmonim Mishtayim Riba Nasis, and 300 Kohanim must be in, 300 Kohanim doing the dipping. Rabbi Yisrael Bislam Shem Shmuel, Gezuma is an exaggeration. You don't need 300 Kohanim because it's Lav Dafka. Taman Tanina, we've learned in Tamid, Pa'amim Alav Shkishalish Me'as Kor. Sometimes on the Mizbeach there were 300 core of ash, and again Rabbi Yisrael Shem Shmuel, he said Gezuma is, and again it's an exaggeration. So they do bring down what I said before. So if it's 120 amas, and each amma is 5 tvachim, so it's slightly different. 120 amas round, and each amma is 5 tvachim, has 600 tvachim going round. So that's 300 kohanim with 2 hands. Each hand is a tefach. 300 kohanim with 2 hands, that's how you get your amount of your 600 kohanim. And they also bring about the eish, the fire on the Mizbeach. This is all from the Shrav Sagan. They worked out as a whole calculation how the amount of the ash on the Mizbeach, how it worked out. Exactly 300 core and so on, with the height and the amount of ash on the Mizbeach and Amma high and so on. There's a whole calculation on that as well. If you listen to the share I gave on Shekalim last time in the Bavli on the Kolaloshan, I think it's discussed there from memory. Okay. Basa Kachim. Now, we've spoken about the Parochas, which is Tameh. Now we bring a Machlokes Tanaim about burning Kachim, which is Tameh. Right? It's a mitzvah to burn it, burnt in fire. Basa Kachim, if it can't be eaten only in the Azara. If it's Tameh, you need to burn it in the Azara. Right? Sometimes you burn things outside the Azara. We'll bring different opinions. Basa Kachim Shenitzma, if it was Tameh, Bein Ba'avatuma, B'Malatuma, Severe Tuma or Lesser Tuma. Bein B'Fnim, Bein B'Chutz. Wherever it was in the Azara outside, everything should be burnt inside, except for the one that's avatuma outside. That's such a severe tumah, avatuma, and it was outside. Don't bother bringing it in. But anything else, burn it inside. Beis Hillel said the other way around. Everything should burn outside, except the rabbinical tumah inside. That's the most lenient one. That we can burn inside. Otherwise, everything outside. Opinion number 3. Rabbi Lezer, Shenitzma ba'avatuma. Mean that was tamei avatuma. If it's av, which is a severe tumah, then I don't care wherever it is. Burn it outside. Ben b'fnim ben b'chutz is b'chutz. And shenitzma b'avatuma rabbinical tumah ben b'chutz ben b'fnim is that can be burnt inside. Rabbi Kiva said makom to master shops wherever it was tamei, that's where you should burn it. Ba'kapara avatuma. Now, what does avatuma mean? It means the Torah din, the Torah. And Vlada Tuma means B'divrei, a rabbinical Tuma. Rabbi Yochanan, he said Bezer. No, Av and Vlad, it means Dvar Torah is Torah din. Even Vlad refers to Torah. Now, the Kashya, Rabbi Yochanan, The Kashia, now, based on what the Shitta of Rabbi Yochanan as a Beis Shammai, that's not, how's that going to fit in on Beis Shammai? Beis Shammai Amrin, Beis Shammai said everything should burn inside, okay, so b'fnim, except for Avatum b'chutz, right? Chutz v'shitzma Avatum b'chutz. Now, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Vlad is also in the Torah. Ma bein Avatum b'chutz, what's the difference? Av outside, and Ma bein Vlad Tumah b'chutz. According to him, they're both Torah in him, so why one is burnt outside, one's burnt inside in Beis Shammai? I feel like Beis Hillel, like Mikashia. Now the same problem is on Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel, because everything's burnt outside, apart from the most lenient one. First of Shnit, but Vlad is moving. Again, according to Rabbi Yochanan, the Vlad Tumah inside, you burn inside. The Vlad is from the Torah. Ma ben Vlad Tumah moving, Ma ben Avatum moving. What's the difference? There's a loads of Torah. They're all Torah in him. Now, the Gemara doesn't actually answer the questions of Rabbi Yochanan, but we go to explain the Mishnah according to Bar Kapara. The Chachamim really didn't discuss to answer the Mishnah according to Rabbi Yochanan. They couldn't find an answer. But they discussed to explain it according to Bar Kapara. According to him, we still have questions in our Mishnah. And these questions they answered. And they asked the following of Bar Kapara. So again, let's remind ourselves. Bar Kapara was the one who said, we didn't quote him actually. Bar Kapara says, Ava Tumah is from the Torah, Vlada Tumah is rabbinical. Fine. So Lava Brabban Elad Bar Kapara. Right, and they were discussing him. The Kasha, the Bar Kapara or the Beis Shammai. So the Beis Shammai, they said everything inside except for one type outside. Now, according to Bar Kapara, Ma bein Avatuma. Now, with Avatuma, who cares where it is? Bein Bachus, Bein Mivnim. What difference is there? They're all Torah did it. What did it matter where it got burnt, where it became tummy? If it's from the Torah, who cares where it got tummy? And then the Gemara answers, begin to Rabbi Kiva. Now, Rabbi Kiva's father, he said, Malcolm to Master Shamtes was, look, where it became tummy, that's where you should burn it. And for that reason, Beis Shammai also made a chiluk. Is it tummy inside? Inside. Outside? Outside. But there is a difference between Rabbi Kiva and Beis Shammai. Rabbi Kiva said, Vlada Tumah, where it got tummy, that's where you burn it. Beis Shammai said, no. Ava Tumah from the Torah, fair enough. But Vlada Tumah, it's only rabbinical, you don't have to take it outside. There's no reason to take it in the Azara. Therefore, even if it's tummy outside, you can bring it in and burn it inside. I feel like Beis Hillel Lesi Mikashia. Now, Bar Kapara's explanation of Torah and Rabbanon, still a problem with Beis Hillel. The Beis Hillel Amrin, everything burned outside, except for why Vladatum moving? Why Vladatum is inside, burn it inside, outside, burn it outside? Why? What difference is there between tummy out and tummy in? It's all rabbinical. So he said the reason is begin Rabbi Shimon, because Rabbi Shimon. Let's see this from Rabbi Shimon. Shimon Amar, he says, look, food or drink of a Matzera became tummy from Matzera. You have to send it outside 3 camps, like the Matzera himself. So even food is got a sending out. So sending meat that's tummy, don't bring in the Azara. So Beis Hillel holds, if it's tummy Vlada Tumah Bachutz, even though it's only rabbinical Tumah, right, don't bring in the Azara to burn it outside. But if it's tummy inside, it can be burnt inside. Okay. Halacha Dalet. Still with me? Right. Now we're talking about, you've got limbs of oil offerings. Imurim of Korban Sibur. Okay. Now the Cohen wouldn't always take them straight to the top of his Mizbeach. They would leave them on the ramp where they'd go up to the Mizbeach, or another part of the Mizbeach, and then they'd take it to put them on the maracha, on the fire that was burning at the top. So you might leave it on the side first. And Korbanos were left in a special place, so let's see where they were left. Evari HaTamid, the limbs of the Tamid, they turn in Mechatzi Keresh or the Mata, that's the lower half of the ramp, right? The Marav on the west side. Shambul Safin, of Korbanos of Musaf, Shabbos and Yom Tov, they turn in Mechatzi Keresh or the Mata. The Mizrach, again, the lower half of the ramp on the east side. Shal Rosh Chadashim, Musaf Rosh Chodesh, they turn in Al Kalkov of Mizbeach Memana. This is a part on the roof of the Mizbeach, sort of walkway, wasn't it? On the roof of the Mizbeach, between the horns, as it were, as we shall see. Now, Mitzvah of Shekalim. The base Mikdash is not around. Hashkalim, the mitzvah to give Masechet Shekalim Daf Sivur, that would be Kurin, and the mitzvah to bring from the first fruits. In Nagin Elef of Ne'abai, so it is applied at the time of base Mikdash. Our Master Dagon, to separate Trumas and Maestros from the fruits of Israel, Master Behema, B'chayros and B'chayr as well. B'chayr Behema Tahira. Nagin that applies. Behema B'fnei Abais. Bein Shalai B'fnei Abais. Nowadays that mitzvah still applies. Now, mitzvah of Shekalim, however, does not apply. Bikurim does not apply. What about if you made a shekel holy or you brought Bikurim? Hamakdi Shekalim and Bikurim nowadays, Areza Kodesh becomes holy. With Shimon, he says, Ha'eme Bikurim Kodesh. Someone who says this Bikurim should be holy, then ain't on Kodesh. He says not holy. It's not Chal. The base mikdash is not around. Ezer Karka Mizbah. What was this Karka walkway on Mizbah? Amma Ben Karen It's between the horns. Right? It's that area between the horns. The sort of strip of width, an hour thick on the roof of the Mizbah between the horns. Malcolm Hilach Raglan Kohen, where the Kohen would walk. Musafeh Shabbos and Musafeh Rosh Chodesh, they're brought in the day. Mi Kohen, which one would you bring first? Rav Yimisov maybe Musafeh Shabbos, Musafeh Rosh Chodesh, Musafeh Rosh Chodesh Kohen. Maybe you should bring Rosh Chodesh first. Chaylet or Yemi Ben Hadar, you want to bring a proof of the following. Shira Shel Shabbos, Shel Shel Rosh Chodesh. You've got the shir that the Levim would sing for the Tamid and the Musaf, which was a special shir for every day. And each one of the festivals, when Rosh Chodesh fell on Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh Kohen, you sing the Rosh Chodesh one first. Therefore, the Musaf Rosh Chodesh should be brought before the Shabbos one. Rabbi Yisra, Shani Hitam, that's different. The Rabbi Yochanan, he said, that was in order to tell everyone, Rosh Chodesh, to make it known. Right? But here with the Kabbalas, Musaf Shabbos, Musaf Rosh Chodesh, Musaf Shabbos Kohen. We should bring the Musaf of Shabbos first. Al Shem Kala Todim Chavera, anything which is more regular than his friend, Kohen is Chavera, that comes first. The case of Hayaisa. Now, if the Musaf Shabbos comes first and the Shir Rosh Chodesh comes first, so how do you do it? Shoichet Musaf Shabbos. You slaughter the Shabbos first. Vayimalen Shir Rosh Chodesh. It'll be the Shir you say is Rosh Chodesh one, which comes before the Shabbos one. Shekalim will be Kurim. If someone says it makes them Hegdash, they're Hegdash. Rav Shimon says they're not. Now, he argues on the Tanna Kama with Bikurim. Shekalim, he would agree, if you made Shekalim holy, culture, they would be holy. Rav Shimon didn't argue the Tanna Kama on that. But the Gemara brings another Tanna named Rav Shimon, who argues on our mission, the view of Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon, Yehuda Imam Rav Shimon, his version of Rav Shimon, Bein Elu Bein Elu Bikurim, or Shekalim, you make it holy, like culture, they are not holy. Tani, we learned, Ageb is Manazeh. Ageb becomes a ger nowadays, when the base mikdash is not around. Sarach Lahavi Kino Ribas Kesef. He has to be mafresh, money, a quarter dinar of kesef for bringing his karbonos. The time of the base mikdash is around, a ger has to bring some birds, right? 2 birds or 2 tarim or b'nei yaina for an oil offering. And since nowadays he can't bring this, he should separate the money for that. Rav Shimon, Bit la Rav Yochanan took away this obligation. Don't separate the money because it becomes holy. You don't know what the money will be used for, not be me'ila. What problem was there? Don't make it holy. Nowadays you don't give erech to the base of mikdash. Don't make nidarim to give things to the base of mikdash. Because the base of mikdash is not around, the money will use for other things. There'll be a me'ila. If you did do things, or herich or hechrim, you gave these things, haksus, if it's clothing, tisoif should burn it. Behema te'ake should uproot the animal. Kesad, what does it mean te'ake? No, but for now, as you close the door, the base will not dive on his own accord. V'hamaz yochel yam melech, the water, the money goes to the sea. Ava behikdish, if a ger did set aside money, what do you do with it? Min mad amr of Shimon, he said, bit lo yachmazag, he got rid of it. And the amr of hikdish, a country sounds like that it is holy. It's mashma. He said, don't do it. But if you did, it becomes holy. Rav Yudan to the Raya, Vaykum Rav Yosa, he says, Hacha, now, with the ger separating money, Atama, you say it works, contrary, it's effective. But Hacha Atama, now earlier on, Shekalim nowadays, we say Kuntra Shimon, it doesn't work, like contrary. Amr, he says, Tamam, over there with Shekalim, he says, Shema Yibane Beis HaMikdash, Beis HaMikdash, Beis HaMikdash should be built, Rosh Chodesh Nisan will be built like the beginning, and they will take from the new amounts on the first of Nisan, because that's the din. You don't take Shekalim to buy Kabbalah Siva, you always from the new amounts. So this shekel that you've now made holy before Nisan, you're not going to bring Kabbalahs. So apart from Takala reason, there's another reason not to do Shekalim nowadays, because they're not going to get Kabbalahs for it. So but the Ebed is not holy. But a ger who separates money for his korbanos, what are you going to say? When the Beis Mikdash is built, he can bring his korbanos from this money. Even though he shouldn't separate the money, but the Eved, it would be holy. When the Rabbi Musar Kalach about the Machlekes, about someone who went to Magdish Bekurim nowadays, Rabbi Adar, Rabbi Abuna, Rabbi Adar Barach, Shem Rab, Allah, Rav Shimon, that it is not holy. Let's see if we've got anything here. Now, we're asking Musaf for Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos. Now, in Zvachim, it says clearly the Musaf for Shabbos is brought before the Musaf for Rosh Chodesh. So why is Rav Yirmiyah saying, Rosh Chodesh comes first? They all discussed the question. And if Rav Yirmiyah didn't understand the Svara to tell everyone about Rosh Chodesh, then what are they arguing? I mean, did he not hold of the rule, Kala Tadeh, or anything more regular comes first? He did not hold of that. Shevet HaLevi wants to say, Pesume Nisa, in Shabbos we might, Matchen Kiddush HaYamim Shutadim Shum Pesume Nisa. We do sometimes push something regular for spreading miracles, right? Even though they're Shnei D'Rabbanan. So those who hold that like wine is min haTorah, even it says even Tadeh D'Oraisa can be Nidcha B'Shum Pesume Nisa. He says maybe it's Pesume Nisa does push away other D'Rabbanan. The reading of Rosh Chodesh is called, he's like announcing it. There was a Sudas Mitzvah, it's Pirsum as well, the big Sudas Mitzvah they made. And they made a Suda with 10 people to tell everyone about Rosh Chodesh. Jewish Hanukkah is different. He said the Pirsum Nes Hanukkah, we're not announcing the days of Hanukkah, we're talking about the miracle. So the miracle is greater. So we'll push away Kiddush HaYayim and HaTorah. You know, it says you haven't got enough money for the candles or for the Kiddush, but Pesume Nisa comes first. But part of the publicity is the mitzvah itself. But publicizing Rosh Chodesh, that's to know when Rosh Chodesh is. Who says, that's how far that goes? Everyone knows that this is as month they brought Rosh Chodesh, that's enough. You don't have to start pushing it so much. Alright, so it seems this was an argument here. How far the Pirsum goes. Is it like a Hanukkah thing? You can push away regular things? And the other one said, no, it's not. It doesn't go that far. Okay. To be continued, Rabbi said, the next share will be after Sukkot. We're up to date. We finished Shekalim. We're holding a few days before Rosh Hashanah, Tafshi and Peivav. The next share will be after Sukkot. Parshas Noach, I would have thought. On the Monday of Parshas Noach. Okay. It will be written, Sivach Sivatova, to Scottish Shanim Rabot, you should merit many years. Anyone who has sorrows, they should be finished and ended. We finish the year with its curses, and we start the year with its blessings. Mm-hmm.